This is a prepaid collect call from inmate
Grant Amato.
Grant. Hey, pal.
Quite a journey you've been on.
Did you leave your father looking like that, your brother Cody, or your mother? Who did this to your family?
Welcome down the rabbit hole, friends. On April 16th, a new docuseries about Grant Amato is being released on Paramount. This documentary is said to include new and shocking claims being made by Grant Amato.
Margaret, Chad, Cody Amato, each shot through the head execution style. What was the motive? The answer lies across the ocean and a woman named Sylvie.
We will be covering the entire story here on Down the Rabbit Hole at Bedtime. I've even uncovered never-before-seen videos and pictures, as well as statements made by friends and family about this horrible tragedy. I hope to get all of this out to you before the 16th so that we can be prepared to learn about the new information on the docuseries.
On the surface, we all look so prim and perfect, but underneath, I felt like I had lost my path in life. I was like, screw it, I'll just click on my free camp's webpage and see what happens. First girl I met, fell in love with her at first sight.
You pervert. Thank you so much, Grant.
In our last video, we were introduced to the Amato family. A family system in crisis, as their youngest son, Grant Amato, is displaying dangerous, deviant, and unexplained behaviors. He destroyed a career he worked years to get licensed for. He spent the past several months before the tragedy isolating himself to his bedroom, spending thousands of dollars from his parents' and his older brother's paychecks, promising it would all pay off when he finally became a big, famous Twitch gamer online.
I ended up spending $12,000 and $15,000 a day.
$20,000 in one night.
We were acting like a couple of high schoolers who had fallen in love.
She has the power of like a Cleopatra.
It was addictive.
Is it just me, or leading up to this crime, doesn't Grant look tired, emaciated, even crazy-eyed? He just looks like something is really wrong with him. In my opinion, this is the presentation of a young man in active addiction. And we're about to find out more about the sick fantasy he's addicted to. The day after his parents and older brother were murdered, Grant Amato was arrested, found in a local hotel room, playing around on the internet, of course. This is how he reacted. This is what he told the police.
Hey man, real quick. We're just gonna patch you down for weapons real quick. Got anything on you? Guns, knives, drugs? Yeah, just stand up.
So you gotta walk through coke or anything?
No. I'll hold off on that. So.
Okay. Hi, I'm Eva.
Hi.
How are you?
My dad had told me that when he disconnected my service that he also changed my phone number. So I don't know what the new phone.
Okay, so this is the beginning of Grant Amato's interrogation. He's just been picked up from a local hotel, and that morning, the police found a horrifying scene at the Amato home. But when they picked Grant up, he didn't ask any questions. He didn't ask them why he was being arrested, where he was being taken, or what happened to his family. He's asked them nothing. He's been placed into an interrogation room and he just starts answering questions. In the beginning, the police are asking him, they want basic information about his phone number, where he lives, all this kind of stuff. And I find it incredibly sad and embarrassing that he has to go into a diatribe about how he doesn't really know his current phone number, like his current cell phone number, because his dad pays for it and his dad changed the number so that he couldn't use it inappropriately and never told him the phone number. This is a 20-something-year-old man who's living off of his father, and I just find this incredibly embarrassing, and Grant tells him about it with a completely straight face. Once again, we're already getting indicators that something is really wrong with Grant Amato.
Number is,
gotcha.
But it's probably, you can probably still see it.
Do you have the phone, or?
It was in my duffel bag.
Oh, gotcha.
There, yeah.
Gotcha. Education.
I have a Bachelor's of Science in Nursing from UCF back in 2011.
That's right, but keep in mind that he recently lost his ability to work as a nurse. And yet, when they go and find him in the hotel room, he's wearing nursing scrubs, surgical scrubs. I find that kind of odd. I mean, maybe it's just a guy thing where he doesn't care and this is the most comfortable clothing that he owns. But to me, it's an indicator of him wanting to live in the past, wanting to, again, create a fantasy world, a fantasy life. When he walks around in that hotel or walks down the street and gets some food, he wants people to look at him like, oh, that's a guy with a medical degree. He's definitely of a mindset of living outside of his real life.
That's my highest level.
Okay. What is there any special nursing degree? What you do, or?
I mean, I have like other certifications. But I mean, with that, like I primarily worked in the hospital for I think 5 or 6 years. And then I was pursuing a Master's of Science in Nurse Anesthesia. That was back in 2015, I believe.
Okay.
But then I didn't complete that, and then I just went back to nursing. And then when
this entire interrogation, I see a lot of ego when it comes to Grant, but I also see bruised ego, okay? He's not just a nurse. He was working on his CRNA. Like, he was almost a nurse anesthesiologist. We're going to hear more about this as the interview goes on, but it's clear that Grant doesn't want to be just a nurse. And it's important to him, once again, to kind of live in a fantasy. He talks about it with a very blank face, but he kind of lets everyone know that he's better than just whatever. He's not going to be stuck where he is forever. He's moving onward and upward.
Like wrongful accusation of the grand theft charge that I told you about in the car, when that happened, I stopped working at the hospital, and then that took like...
I don't think we talked about that in the car.
Well, I was accused of grand theft of the third degree back in June of 2018. That like went on for 6 months, and during that time I obviously wasn't allowed to work because of it. And then...
Where was that at?
Florida Hospital South, the main one down in Orlando.
General Orange Avenue?
Remember in our last video, we talked about how Grant was caught stealing medications, specifically propofol, from his job as a nurse, and he got fired. He really lost everything. Now, he's going to go into the fact that originally the police had charged him with a felony of stealing this medication, all right? But he was actually able to get out of that charge. So he's going to explain how he believes that he will be vindicated and will be able to work as a nurse again. Now, I have a lot of questions about this, and it's something I may go into later, but it's likely that he still was going to have issues with his nursing license. Even though here in this interview, he talks about how that's not really the case. It's just a possibility that it would have taken longer than 6 months for everything to catch up on his nursing license. But the felony charges were dropped, and that's true, because in the end, the police couldn't prove that Grant was stealing the medication and taking it home. He gave the excuse that he was giving additional medication to the patients on the floor because he felt that they needed it. And that would be more of an issue with your nursing, your professional nursing license, than necessarily an issue of stealing the medication. So I do believe that it was going to catch up with him eventually, but here in this interview, he kind of makes it like, everything's good now. Like, I got away, the charges were completely dropped, and now I'll be working as a nurse once again.
So when that happened, obviously I was dismissed from that job, and then I couldn't get another job because now you have an outstanding felony charge on your name.
Sure.
So then I got the attorney. It all went through, and then finally in December, they posted on the Orange County Clerk Courts or whatever website where your file is that there was no evidence ever presented. All the charges were dropped, and now I'm just in the process of expunging that from my records.
Right.
But because I can't keep just not working forever.
Sure.
And that was kind of a...
And here is one of the only places in this interrogation and in any other interviews or anything that I've seen with Grant, this is one of the only places that Grant admits that his father and his brother were kind of annoyed with him. I mean, he has not only destroyed his career and his life in many ways, but he's using up all of their money. We're going to find out that it was Cody Amato, his older brother, who paid for his bond to get out of jail. and paid for him to have a lawyer to fight this charge. I already talked to you about in the last video that Cody had paid for their entire trip to Japan, and we're going to hear about how expensive it was. So this is the one time that we really hear Grant be a little bit honest, I guess, about the fact that people weren't really happy with what was going on with him. Otherwise, he's totally delusional. In every other interview and every other place that I've seen him, he'll be like, Cody just really wanted to support me. Like, we're just best friends. And, that's what a brother does for a brother. But listen closely to some of what he has to say here, and you will hear the reality of what's going on. His dad and his brother are really getting tired of all this BS.
A topic around the house was, I need to get started here.
Right. Who was your attorney for that?
Lauren Lycum, Chapman Law Group.
Okay.
I think that one's based in Sarasota.
Okay.
So then.
But they didn't really have to do anything.
No,
the state attorney didn't file any charges. So.
The state attorney didn't file anything, and then she just presented that she was going to be my attorney, and that was the most work she ever had to do.
Okay.
And then I've been applying for jobs for the last couple weeks. I'd gotten 3 or 4 callbacks.
Mm-hmm.
And then I went on a job interview yesterday for a home infusion nurse job.
Where was that at?
That was with, it was scheduled for 10. I got there at around 9 in the morning. And then I think we actually had the interview at about 9:45.
How'd that go?
Grant Amato's family was killed the night before this interview. And this morning at 9 a.m., Grant went in for some ridiculous, in my opinion, really ridiculous interview to become an infusion nurse, because he believes that he's scot-free, his nursing license is going to be fine. And he's letting everyone know that that's where he was this morning. Still, he's not asked why he is in this interrogation room. What has happened that's brought him here? What is going on? He's acting like this is just a fun, whatever kind of chill out session with the police. When I first watched this interrogation, I honestly could not help but wonder if Grant was on the autism spectrum, okay? I do think we see some of those characteristics in him, and as I went deeper and did a deeper dive on the family, I see some of those characteristics with their father as well. But we'll get more into that in another video. I don't necessarily believe that Grant actually has autism, but I would like to know more about what his childhood was like and if he was ever struggling with some of the things that we see with children on the autism spectrum. And that information just isn't available right now, but we definitely see some of the characteristics here.
I mean, it was all good. They didn't have anything. They said that they'd probably be getting back to me by Tuesday or Thursday this coming week.
Get you back to work?
Yeah, because, it's a crappy world when, you don't have any money, you can't do anything, so.
Financially, how's the nursing what you did? I'm sorry, I just don't know that much. She knows all more about nursing. The nursing, how does it pay? How does it pay?
If you work your standard 3 12 hours a week, you get anywhere. Nurse anesthesia pays, base about 150 up to 175.
Mm-hmm.
You work a lot of overtime. You can cusp 200, but then they have to come in at the start of surgery. They have to induce the patient to put them to sleep. And then as long as they're comfortable with you, the surgeon's comfortable with you.
Okay, let's review here. Grant is not a CRNA. He's not a nurse anesthetist, okay? He's just not. Grant, you're not, okay? But he gets really excited when the police ask him about it. Okay, and this kind of just leans towards the evidence that even if Grant was still a nurse and he never lost that job, he was not happy with himself. He did not like living this kind of lowered lifestyle. We'll be hearing more about this as time goes on, but Cody and Grant's father is a pharmacist. And their mother also has a pretty prestigious job. They own horses and train them. They have a big, beautiful house. They just have a lot. I'm not saying that they're incredibly wealthy, but certainly wealthier than me. Let's just put it that way. They have a lot going on for them. They're very successful as a family. I don't know. I believe that maybe a lot of pressure was put on the children to be successful as well. And it almost seems like Grant just never measured up in his own mind. He never was able to accomplish the things that other people were accomplishing, and he never felt good about himself, even before all of this happened. So he self-sabotaged in certain ways because it wasn't good enough to be just a nurse. So as soon as the police ask him, like, well, what does a CRNA really do? He jumps on it, like, let me tell you all about everything I know. I mean, I didn't pass, but forget about that. Like, in my heart, I am a CRNA. So we really see the ego coming out in Cody and the propensity to really live for a fantasy, which is the crux of everything that's going on here.
Then the anesthesiologist leaves, and then you take care of the whole entire surgical
Just
case.
oversee it.
Right.
Okay.
And then, again, by the time you're a CRNA, you're obviously competent enough to wake the patient.
What kind of grades you make? How were your grades?
High school and the first 2 years of college, I was A, B, C.
Mm-hmm.
I was in honors in the major program for UCF.
Mm-hmm.
And then my final 2 years when I was getting my BSN,
mm-hmm.
I made A's and B's, and then I had one slip up in my final semester where I had to redo a class,
mm-hmm.
and then I ended up graduating in August.
Of what year?
2011. And then I applied for the graduate school in December, or I started going in January of 20... Girlfriends. I had, like, my high school sweetheart girlfriend for about 5 years. And then ever since then, no, like, official girlfriends, no flings or anything like that.
Dates here and there.
Dates occasionally.
Okay, so here we're hearing that Grant hasn't been overly successful in his love life. I'm not hearing anything that leans towards like him being completely thrown aside and no one likes him. I actually get the feeling that more of what's going on is that he probably has incredibly high standards that he can't live up to. He wants to be with a woman that is a physician or a CRNA, really hot, really good looking, the best possible cook, and loves him to no end. And he's not able to accomplish that, so he doesn't date anyone. People are not living up to his standards because he's not living up to his own standards. He doesn't feel good enough about himself. So he did have a girlfriend back in high school. We're also going to talk a lot more about this in the next video when we go through a bunch of stuff from social media about Grant and Cody. It's my personal belief that Grant was kind of like, in my opinion, a hangers-on, like a person who was kind of following his older brother, Cody, around and made Cody's friend group his own friend group. Everything he does is like Cody already did it first. And I get the feeling that although he was included, and we're going to see videos of like him hanging out with this group, first off, the group is really cringy. Now, they are at the end of high school, and high school boys are cringy anyway. But definitely to the point of like, you wonder, they better grow up at some point or else they're not going to be a positive part of human society. There's definitely some cringe going on. They're completely invested in video games and guns and paintball. But they do have a group of kids that they all hang out together. And it really seems like it was Cody's friend group, and Grant kind of inserted himself into it. We're going to see a lot of that. So we've got two things going on. One is that Grant was just always second best to Cody, is what it sounds like to me. And also that just in general, he struggled with relationships in his life, but that ultimately the real problem for Grant, in my opinion, is his expectations from life. He can't meet the expectations he puts on himself. No one around him is good enough. And that's why he has to live in a fantasy world where he is some kind of like massive gamer. He's probably a CRNA in that world. He has a ton of money and he gets the best, hottest girls. And that's ultimately the real problem in Grant's life.
School, not anything from UCF. I have about $100,000, I'd say, from my math when I was going to Barry.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the only school debt that I have right now. It kind of creeped back up when I wasn't working, so I had to go on to the deferred payments or whatever it's called until I get a job.
Oh my gosh. So this was really new for me when I watched the full interrogation, and I'm just picking out parts of the interrogation for you to see here. But when I watched it, I could not believe that not only did Grant spend over $200,000 of his parents' and his brother's money on a cam girl, but he already owed over $100,000 in school debt. And from what he says here, it sounds like that was for the CRNA program that he didn't finish. I mean, he has dug himself a huge hole. He talks about in this interview how much money he was making as a nurse, and he says he's only making like $50,000 a year with $100,000 already of school debt. Plus, there's a whole other level of what he ends up spending on Sylvie. I mean, this guy is out of control. And yeah, I mean, you can see why ultimately, if he really had to deal with reality, it would be incredibly depressing for him. How is he going to even be able to pay back this original debt that he didn't finish his program for? It also makes me believe that something else is going on with the CRNA program. You know, I don't believe he just dropped out. He just didn't think it was for him. You don't put $100,000 into a program like that and just leave it because it's not for you, especially when we can see how much he wants to have that level of education. He wants to be a CRNA. So I think something else happened in that program that we're not being told. And I'm still pushing down the rabbit hole on that area. I'm really trying to reach out to people to be like, what happened there? Because I just don't believe that he just left the program because he didn't feel like finishing it. It just wasn't for him. Grant's hiding more than we realize.
What do you like to do?
What do I like to do? I like to watch anime.
Hi, over here, me, Mr. Policeman. I can tell you exactly what Grant's side gigs are. He loves gaming, guns, paintball for the guns, and anime. All right. We're going to see a lot of this in my upcoming video where we take a look at like everything from social media, all the videos, pictures, all the shout outs, all about Grant and Cody online. But we're also, okay, I have something really exciting coming up for you guys in the future. We're going to take a look at an interview with Grant's prison girlfriend. It is stranger than you guys could ever imagine. These are his obsessions, and he is highly obsessed about them.
Me and my brother kind of started doing that back 5 years ago. I'd say he kind of got me into it.
What is it? I'm sorry.
Sorry.
I don't know what it is.
I mean,
I thought you said M.
It's like cartoons, I guess you could say, but it's Japanese cartoons.
Okay.
I guess is the best way to put it. So, it's not as, it's like the stories and whatnot and the way that the shows progress, it's not as childish as cartoons. I actually just went to, me, my brother, and one of my friends, or I guess friends from high school, we went to Japan from December 1st to December 15th.
Oh, wow.
So we went because, I mean, and it was anime that kind of inspired us to want to go there.
Was that your first time going?
Yeah. First time actually.
Who went? You and your brother and who?
Our friend Jericho. He was originally a friend of my brother's back in high school, and then we all kind of stayed close.
Okay, so now Grant is talking about his trip to Japan. And this is a really important part of the Grant Amato story and like backstory before the murders occur. If you didn't watch my last video, please go back and watch it because I talk all about the trip to Japan and I show you video. They took video of themselves in Japan. There's a lot of video and pictures available out there. So go ahead and take a look at it because it's an important part of the story. Grant and Cody, they traveled to Japan together. Cody paid for all of it, and we're going to hear more about how much it costs. But there was a third person that went with them. His name is Jericho, and he is a childhood friend of all of them. But I think even in this interview, Grant says, well, he was Cody's friend first, but then we all became friends. When I have listened to some information from Jericho, it really sounds like his friendship was with Cody. And Grant was kind of like the little brother that tagged along with everything. But this is a really important part of what happened with Grant and Cody because while they were in Japan, this whole situation occurs where Grant goes missing. And it turns out that he stole Jericho's credit card to use to pay for more minutes in an internet cafe to spend with his webcam girl, Sylvie, while they were supposed to be in Japan, sightseeing and like going on the trip of a lifetime. He was so addicted and so obsessed that he stole the credit card of Cody's close friend, who I think we hear in this interview, like, doesn't have a lot of money. Like, he had to save up for this trip, and Cody has to say that he's going to pay him back. It's just another example of how obsessed and addicted Grant really is, and how sick he is.
How expensive was that trip?
I mean, God, plane tickets alone were like $1,400, and then I'd say it was probably about $10,000 total for like all the stays and whatnot.
For each one of you?
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, it was 2 weeks. So.
How'd you were there? Yeah. How'd you spend your time over there?
God, we went to Tokyo for the first 4 days.
In fact, how long have you been out of work?
I've been out of work for 6 months, since June.
How did you pay? That's a lot of money for to be out of work.
My brother.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, my brother.
What does he do?
He's a CRNA.
What?
Sorry, the certified registered nurse anesthetist.
Okay, we were
both in the program together.
Okay.
And then he was able to finish, and then I did not.
So he was making good money.
Yeah.
Was he making that 150, 100?
He was working. He was working a lot. I mean, I don't know if he was. I think he was cusping a lot of overtime, not scheduled, but like it's just kind of what happens. But yeah, he was moving along.
What do you think he made his best year?
God, he showed me because he was he was complaining about how like his taxes alone were like the annual income of like a nurse. And I think when he showed me before like it had all ended, like the before his pay year had ended, that he was already up to like 166.
Okay, still, we're an hour into this interrogation, and Grant has not asked why he's there. We can clearly see that the police officers are trying to establish that Grant had a lot of reason to be unhappy and to be jealous of his brother. And Grant is sitting there like completely straight-faced, like stone-faced, just like telling the story of his life. Like these people are just really interested in him. He doesn't know why. I mean, it's so inappropriate what's happening here, and it's weird that Grant never even really acknowledges that. And it's also weird because Grant's been arrested before for taking the propofol, and they had to get an attorney. So you would really think that he would be like, I need an attorney. I'm not going to talk to you guys. And he doesn't do that. It's very interesting to me.
Jericho.
But that was like after I think the $60,000 or $40,000 already came out. I can't remember.
That was after it?
Yeah, I think so.
So he made more than 160?
That was take home.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
we definitely. What's he do?
He's got just a high school diploma. So I think for the majority of the past year, he was working as one of those what are they called? They're like the people that watch the security cams when you go into like a Gap or something like that. He's like watching loss prevention. That's it, correct?
How did he pay for all that?
I mean, I guess he just saved.
Brother didn't have to pay for him?
No, yeah. He like covered maybe some like daily expenses if there was like a taxi or
food or something.
Right.
Just a quick side note. Poor Jericho. Like, he works as a security guard. He had to save up $10,000 to go on this trip. And freaking Grant steals his credit card to be able to talk to the webcam girl while they're on the trip. I mean, it's just ridiculous. His lack of connection to people around him. This is one of the main reasons why I was just curious if he was on the autism spectrum. Like, and the way that he talks about it, like it's nothing. This is also like a sign to me that Grant has been obviously like very spoiled in his life. His expectations of the world are like that it just bows down to him. And when that's not happening, he just expects the people around him, his older brother, his dad, friends, whoever, to like make it happen. Like, he'll take what he needs to be the person that he wants to be. He'll steal from this security guard who's struggling, who's one of his friends, to be able to speak to some fantasy webcam girl. It's utterly ridiculous to any of us who live in the real world.
It had been a dream of ours to go for a couple years, and then we really started planning probably just the year before. Like, actually, like, putting the money aside, getting all the reservations and whatnot scheduled.
Like the dream trip to go there?
Yeah.
This is for that anime, you call it?
I mean, it was the inspiration. We played Call of Duty a lot, like, back in the day. And then we got out of that because it was just starting to get too, like...
Which system did you use?
PlayStation. Oh, PlayStation, then we went to Xbox because that was like, what?
Okay, let me spare you all this ridiculous talk about video games. To summarize all of it, Grant and Cody were really into video games. But not baby video games, mind you. Like real adult, manly video games because they matured and grew out of like the babyish stuff a long time ago. They are men. Okay, that's really important. Grant really wants you to know that. But they're into video games. It's what kind of pulls them together, especially with their friend group. And he kind of talks about how they've spent a lot of time and investment into games. And that's also part of the reason why he believed he could become a famous gamer on Twitch and make hundreds of thousands of dollars. He also goes on to just really in a silly way talk about like these gamers that he admires that makes $300,000 a year. Again, fantasy.
And then like the two most prominent ones are Ninja and Tim the Tatman, and they both play Fortnite. Like Ninja I think makes $300,000 a month.
It's so annoying. Like I'm just rolling my eyes about how he's acting like the police actually care about any of this. Like they clearly ask him questions like he's a child. Like, oh, well, can you educate me on what kind of game that is? And like, I don't know that much about it. Like, tell me all about yourself, Grant. And he's like, okay, I guess you really, I mean, it's total lack of awareness. I am going to leave this part in which they talk about how much money Grant and his family have spent on their gaming equipment, like his gaming equipment, so that he can be a Twitch streamer. It's utterly ridiculous, and it just goes to further prove that this is a pretty well-off family.
A good amount, yeah. I mean,
more than the average person.
Yeah. I'm computer savvy. Yeah.
You have a computer at home? Good computer?
I have a gaming PC up in my room. And then there's another gaming PC downstairs that we just built for the VR specific.
You guys built it?
Yeah. And then, but I mean, yeah, like my gaming PC, like we would buy all the parts and then we would put it together our own little way.
What would a good one cost you?
When I built mine, it was about $3,000, and then the gaming one downstairs I think was $4,000 or like $4,500.
And that's basically used for the VR stuff you were using it for?
Yeah.
And that was pretty neat setup?
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. Yeah, that was cool.
What were you shooting with? What was your gun for that? What was you like?
Me and my brother both got the Benelli, like long Supernova, I think it is? Supernova.
Okay, now they go into this really long discussion about what kind of guns Grant has, and he's had a lot of them. And they're very expensive, once again. And Grant's acting like, again, they're just really interested. Like, they must be gun enthusiasts, and they want to know, like, my expertise about it. When clearly, they are just trying to figure out, like, where the gun is that he killed his family with. That's all that's going on here. Total disconnection. Now, I think Grant is smart enough to really know that that's what they're doing, but it's almost like his response to all of this is like he thinks the way to get through it is just to act like this is totally normal. Whatever. I didn't do anything, so I can sit here forever and never ask you why I'm here. It's just a very odd way of dealing with this situation.
We both had those, and then during the time where, like, I was struggling, like, in this last 6 months, I mean, I sold all of my guns.
What'd you have?
What did I have? That was like our, that was just our, gun that, like, me and my brother both had one of those.
You both had one?
Yeah. And then we had, and then I had, again, it's like the dream gun that I always wanted was the FN Tactical 45 with, like, the threaded barrel and all that stuff. And that one, I think we actually had to get from Gander Mountain way back when.
Do you have any of these left? Anything? Or did you keep anything for yourself?
No. I ended up
got rid of everything.
Got rid of everything. So I was just trying to get some semblance of money in.
Okay, so I'll cut the gun talk off here. It goes on for a very long time. But I wanted to get to the point of letting you know that Grant tells them that he has had to sell all of his guns because they were so expensive. They're like thousands of dollars. And when he realized like he had no money and that he needed more money to spend on Sylvie, like he sold all of them. He's not going to admit the Sylvie part quite yet. But yeah, he's had to start selling things at this point in time. Again, addiction. You
know, my brother had to like foot the bill to get the attorney. So, you know, it's like there was a lot of stuff.
What did you pay the attorney, you know, man?
I think it was $8,000 for the holding the attorney.
And finally, Grant's going to talk about the fact that his brother Cody has had to foot the bill in such an extreme way for all of these shenanigans that went on with his nursing license. He's had to get an attorney, and even though everything has kind of worked out as far as the felony in the end, Cody was frustrated that all this money went down the drain, and we're going to hear Grant talk about that a little bit.
Retainer fee. And basically she had to do nothing.
She had to do nothing, and he got annoyed because he apparently wasn't told that it was non-refundable. But I know that I told him because I had to send in the document signing it saying this is non-refundable.
I've known of any attorney that takes a retainer that ever gives you anything back.
Yeah.
So I didn't hire me. That's what it's going to cost.
Yeah, he didn't get anything back from that, unfortunately, and she ended up, I think, only going through about $3,000 of it.
Mm-hmm.
So, because what was it? I think $5,000 was for the criminal case, and then $3,000 was for the other case if it had to go to the Department of Health, which that never had to happen. So that $3,000 is just.
So your nursing certificate is still good.
Free, clear, and active. It's always been clear and active. It's just the quintessential. You go to that background check, and then they'll see an outstanding thing. Even though I have the paperwork now saying everything's been dropped, he's in the process of expunging his records.
Did you have to go in front of the board or anything?
No. I didn't have to go before the judge, because when...
Not saying board of nursing.
Oh, no.
With any of this.
No.
That's good.
You know, even when it all went down on the day where I was accused of that felony, you know, the cops came in and then they handcuffed me and they were like, you know, you've been charged with this. We're taking you down to the, I think it was Orange County? The Orange County jail area. You know, I had to have the picture taken and stay in the sitting area where they process you all and everything like that. And, you know, I'm using the phones on the cord, you know, trying to just pass around the phone. And I'm surrounded by all these guys who are talking about, you know...
Who are real criminals.
Yeah.
Who are real criminals.
And the first person I call is my dad. My brother. And...
Wow. Good old Cody. Cody is the one, not his parents. Cody is the one who showed up for Grant when he was arrested because of the propofol issue. And he's the one who posted the bond for Grant to get out of jail. It kind of makes me unsure what Grant's father would have done. It seems like Cody is stepping in a lot to try to help Grant. And I have a lot of questions about that. Okay, I have some questions about what's going on. That's something for much later on as we go down this rabbit hole, but I've often wondered if there wasn't some kind of relationship between Grant and Cody where Cody had something to feel guilty about. And I really almost feel like it's not just that he's the more successful brother. I do wonder if it was obvious that Grant had some almost special needs, and because of that Cody was always trying to pull him along, help him, get him where he needs to go. Now, in the upcoming docuseries, what is going to be alleged is that the home was really abusive. That's my understanding, is that a big part of what Grant is going to say in this docuseries is that it was a really traumatic home environment, and this contributed to a lot of what ended up happening. Grant is allegedly going to come out with a lot more information that he wants to share with us. So I really want to see that docuseries to get more of a feeling of what Grant's new fantasy is for all of us.
What is your brother's name?
Cody.
Okay.
Sorry. First person I called was him, and he was at work at the time, but he answered his phone, and I was just like, look, I'm freaking out. I've been charged with this. I've been told that my bond is this, and then I guess he tells, whoever was working that day with him, I gotta go. So then he calls my mom, he calls my dad, he smooths things over as best as he can. He's just basically saying, I'm going to pay this. And then I think I was there for 7 hours or something, even though it was paid within the first hour.
Right. But it just takes a little time to get all the paperwork and the booking in and then the bond process to go through.
Right.
So that's dismissed. You're out looking for jobs, applying pretty regular?
Yeah, I'd say pretty regular.
Anything left in savings?
Nothing left in savings. I think I had like $300-400. But
brother kind of helping you through?
Yeah, I mean, brother was helping me. My dad was covering the rent, that he calls it, which is just like the monthly payment.
Okay, so to be clear, and this is kind of like weird, let's be honest, both Cody and Grant at this time, they still live with their parents. They pay rent to their parents. Now they have a nice big house, but it's just very odd. And this is a part of what is going to be discussed on the docuseries and kind of lends to the idea that maybe the father was very controlling. I have a lot to say about the father, Chad Amato. I looked up and found a bunch of information about him and a little bit of information about Margaret. But Chad definitely, like, just something, I get a bad feeling about what's going on with him. That doesn't mean that, like, he caused this whole situation, but I really need to hear what Grant has to say. Let's continue on with the interrogation for now.
For us to help, since we all live at home.
What was that? What was you figuring that?
$600
each?
A month, yeah. And then,
it's not a bad deal, is it?
No. And then, I mean, he was covering, like, cell phone. We were paying for our own internet.
All three boys live at home?
No. It's just me and Cody, and then mom and dad.
Okay. Tell me about Cody.
Cody. Let's see. Me and Cody had the quintessential rough, like, fighting each other and whatnot when we were younger.
The love-hate,
right.
Typical siblings.
But then I would say, like, my junior year of high school, we were all on the weightlifting team together. That's where I got to know a lot of, like, his guy friends. And, you know, we stopped, like, arguing at that point. And then we all, you know, we decided to go to nursing school together. We decided to go to the nurse anesthesia school together.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we did everything together. I mean,
Who was the better student?
He was the better student in everything up through nursing school, and then I was actually the better student in nurse anesthesia school. But there was like again, kind of like with
Are you guys at the same time in the same classes?
Yeah.
So you're the
but not for nursing school, not for nursing school.
No, I mean for the anesthesiology.
Yeah, we sat right next to each other.
So you're in there doing things together, so you got somebody to study with.
Yeah.
Somebody to bounce things off of and work with.
Yeah, and we would do that all the time when we were burning the midnight oil.
But you were better at it.
Yeah, and that was the one time that he actually admitted that I was didactically more competent than him in that field. And then...
Who's better in weightlifting?
Okay, so we're hearing a little bit about Grant's version of his relationship with Cody, and we just need to put a star, like really highlight this. Grant would want us to. He was better. He was better than Cody at CRNA school. Now, I know he didn't like pass, and Cody did, but just believe him, okay? He was better at it, and it was the one time that Cody actually admitted that was true. Let's just highlight that for Grant. Obviously I'm being facetious. Like, there's some effed up stuff going on here. There really is. Like, we're hours into the interrogation. He still hasn't asked why he's there. Where is his family? What is going on? So just highlighting once again, there's such a disconnection when it comes to Grant. Okay, now we're going to stop here, and there will be a part 2 that will go up by tomorrow. And the only reason why is because I am in a situation where YouTube does not really allow me to upload over an hour in length. I just have a really hard time, like it'll crash, there will be all these problems. So I need to put up the first part of the interrogation, and the second part will go up by tomorrow, maybe even by tonight. And then we will be moving on to really taking a look at the interview I talked about with the girlfriend and some social media stuff with Grant and Cody. Thank you so much for heading down this rabbit hole with me. I hope that you'll join me again next time, because this rabbit hole is really deep.